Okay, so in this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a map in ArcGIS Pro. And to do this, what we're going to want to do, you're going to do this for Site 6 along the Diamond Fork River. But we're going to make lines. So we have to create a line feature class. And then we'll make all of the lines that we want as the boundaries of the mapping units. And then from that, we'll choose to make polygons from lines. And that will make sure that all of our line segments are shared and we don't have gaps in our mapping. Um, so yeah, after the fact, you can add line features as well, or in some areas you might not have overlapping or intersecting polygons, and that's okay. But it's always best to start with making lines and then making polygons from those lines. Okay, so over here we can see our river network, the Spanish Fork and Diamond Fork rivers, and all the sites. So in your project, I asked you to map the geomorphology of this site, which is near these river terraces, just upstream of the junction between Diamond Fork and Spanish Fork, because there's like this really nice section of the Bonneville Terrace right here, and little remnants of the Provo, and then some modern river terraces inset in there. And of course, I've done some mapping when I created the terrace profiles for you and plotted them above the stream profile. But you're gonna have to do more than that. So what I want you to do is basically map like at least a half kilometer downstream and upstream of that point to kind of highlight all of the diverse geomorphology here. And so it can be those river terraces. Also, maybe you have little alluvial fans and younger channels. You probably could map cultural features, possibly colluvial aprons. Um, do your best to highlight the things that you want to. It doesn't have to be perfect. The main thing is to practice some geomorphic mapping. So to give you some help, I'm going to do an example myself. So actually what we'll do, I guess we'll go to the first site, Site 1, for my example. So here's Site 1 at the mouth of the canyon. There's a lot of kind of cultural features going on down here. I'm going to turn off these terrace locations that I've already mapped. There's the site marker. And so I'm going to see where do I want to map. So I'll measure the distance. So if I kind of want to, so that's 600 meters. So I think I'm going to map kind of up to where the channel starts to become constricted here. I'm going to map primarily kind of from this bend here down to here. So I'm going to map all this. I'm not going to go up and map high topography. I'm really focused at the quaternary geology and geomorphology. So on this side of the south side of the river, I'll be probably going up to about where you see this escarpment here, this flat area. And then on this side, probably, I guess in both cases, no higher than the yellow kind of contour of the digital elevation model. Okay, we don't need that. So let's get off the measure, back to explore. One thing that might help you with your mapping is to create contour lines. So maybe I'll do that first. So if I go here, choose contours, yeah, it was there. That's in Spatial Analyst. And I'm going to input, yeah, I had to input my LiDAR, which is this lower Spanish Fork Diamond Fork V2. And then I have to save this, and this will be available for you all because I'll save it within 2023. And I will call this, well, let's see, what interval will we do? 5M contours. Let's try that. So we want to be 5 meter contour interval. Base contour is 0. We're in the right coordinate system, so we don't need a Z factor, I believe. And yeah, you run that. Now, whenever you have a big data set of many features, it can get slow to load. So if you're not actively using the contours, you probably want to turn them off. But if we, they'll really help us see things like alluvial fans. The other thing that you could use to see alluvial fans might be a aspect map. Or if you, instead of having a slope map like I have up here, you made a hillshade. Okay, so while that's going, I'm going to go back to the catalog view. If I go in my folders, what you want to do, so we'll go in 2023. I'm going to create, oh, I already did it. I had this lab geomorphic map .shape that I made. This would be a starting point for us. But if you didn't have anything, you'd right click on here, you'd say new. And in this case, since I'm not in a geodatabase, I'll choose new shapefile. And then you would go in and from there you would say, okay, I'm going to call this site 1 map .shp, and I want them actually to be lines because I told you we're going to make polylines and then we'll make them into polygons later. And I want to choose the coordinate system that I'm working in, which is that NAD83. That should do it. Run that. So it'll take a minute because it's still drawing those contours. But since it's multi-threaded processing, you can kind of work on a couple things at once. Okay, the contours have loaded and here they show up. So now you can see like, oh, there's a little alluvial fan coming out onto this flatter surface. Flat surface remnant of the Bonneville shoreline is there. And that's why you can see I put that orange piece there. You can see even some of the terraces that I've mapped aren't really that flat. So like that piece there. Okay, so contour map's going to help us. A lot of times I like to go to those. I don't want them to be too prominent, so I'll make them a little transparent, maybe 50, not 500%, but 50%. And you could also change their color so they're less offensive to you. Sometimes just a simple gray or something like that, but we really want a solid line. Yes, like that. Yeah, so they're just kind of in the background there as helpers. And you can already see that they're taking a little time to draw. So like I said, if you're not using them, turn them off. Okay, so yeah, I got my site 1 map. I'll put that at the top. That's what I want to edit. There's nothing there. I'm going to make lines, but I want these lines to show up so I know what I've already mapped. So maybe I'll make a 1.5 black line here. Of course, there's nothing here yet because I haven't made anything. So to start editing, we go to Edit, click Create, and over here you have to click what you want to create. And I want to create within site 1 map. And then I can create line features. I can use these other tools if I want, but this simple one is probably the one to start with. Okay, so at this site, the channel is kind of already mapped for you, although it stops kind of here. I wouldn't worry about that. If you can see it in there, I guess you could continue mapping it if you wanted to, but I'm not going to focus on the channel right now. First, let's get some geomorphic surfaces. And so, other thing that really can help is running profile lines, but that's a little bit challenging to do here. So I'm really going to rely heavily on these contours as well as the shading of the DEM, which is kind of like a contour. And so maybe the first thing I'll start out with is trying to highlight this alluvial fan right here. So just go along the edge of it, and then at some point it ends. I'm trying to use the roughness of it to kind of highlight where it ends. And then you kind of want all these lines to snap closed, because otherwise they won't create polygons. So that's one thing we need to work on. So within editing, I think we can make sure that we're snapping. So let's see about that. I can test it here. So create another line. It's not, I mean, it will hit that line, but it's not snapping the way I want it to. So let's see how I can fix that. I need to remind myself, I haven't done a lot of digitizing within ArcGIS Pro yet. So it says go to Edit ribbon, click the Edit tab. In the snapping group, click on snapping. Oh, right there. Snapping is on. We can change the tolerance. Oh, I clicked that, but nothing happened. It currently says 10 pixels. Back here. Oh, okay, yeah. So go in snapping settings. Let's say I'm going to set it to be, so each of these pixels is about a meter, I think. Well, I guess it's kind of hard to know what that means, points, because it's not the DEM. Let's double this at least. Okay. Definitely snapping now. I might have done too much. So if I go back to edit, and you want to like edit something you've already made, you can click edit vertices, and then you can kind of move them. If you're not happy with things. But if it's not part of that, then we have to click on this other line after the fact. Oh, don't want that. Do that. I'm going to go to edit, clear selected features. Okay, so those seem to be snapped, and it's not perfect. Like I would kind of like that fan edge to be more up here. So I think if oh goodness, it's a little bit clunky. I'm trying to edit vertice. It's not working for me. Click edit. Pin this ribbon down. Yeah, I think that did it. Okay. Edit vertices. Click here. There's the vertice. Wait, got it. Now I should be able to push it out here. Now, if my snapping is too high, yeah, we can kind of see we're getting caught onto those other lines. So I don't like that. So let's go back to snapping. Oh yeah, that's too much. So let's go back to 20 and say, okay. Yeah, okay. So you can kind of get a sense of where we get snapped to. So you want to get that right. You can right click, you can add a vertex, and then you can kind of shift it if you want to get it really perfect. If I want to do that, I'd probably put it here, right? Because this edge of the fan kind of shifts around. Now, I'm not looking for you to make the perfect geomorphic map. This is in a first attempt. But since there's several of you, and you kind of helping each other out, you can probably make a pretty nice map. Okay, so that's my the lines for my first fan surface. Now this other piece back here, I'm going to call the Bonneville shoreline. Over here, this is another little alluvial fan. So I'm going to go back to create, click this. So now I don't need to draw the back side of this geomorphic terrace. So I can just kind of follow the edge of this terrace riser, which is basically snapping to that contour, which seems okay at this level. Although here I can see that I don't want that to happen because it gets a little shaded there. So maybe that's a piece of Bonneville. Then here we'll have another bit. And I want it to come back off of here. If you're getting too snapped, you can relax your snapping tolerances a bit. I'm okay with the way it's doing it right now. If you want to move, you can press in on the mouse scroll button and then drag over. Yeah, so I'm kind of following this contour, which I guess makes sense. If you really wanted to follow the contour, you could actually click trace the contour. So if I click on it now, it's just going to trace that contour over. If you like that, that can be a good way to make a really nice and smooth line. When you're done, you just click. Oh, yeah. But the caveat to that is when you trace, you get a lot of vertices to match that line. So it might be like overkill. And so again, I think my snapping is too high. So maybe they were right. 10 was a good number for the scale I'm mapping at. Okay. So I came off of the contour. Maybe I should have done that to begin with. But I guess I'm going to go into the edge of the map here, and that's okay. So here's my Bonneville shoreline terrace. This side, kind of stopping where I think the colluvium from this hill stops. And then wherever I think this alluvial fan is coming out to. So there, I've enclosed those lines. Now we can see this other fan. So I can get that edge of this fan. Where the contours be up. That probably needs some editing. So in that case, I go to edit vertices again. Move that one there. Click on this one. No, don't want that. Clear. Click this one. Okay, there's my vertice. Snap it over there. That's better. So, things might not look great as you zoom in, but as you zoom out, they might look a little bit better. Okay. So I've got 2 alluvial fans and a Lake Bonneville surface that I've mapped so far. And we'd want to keep doing this. Now, if you want to if you're only mapping the geomorphic surfaces, which are flat areas or specific depositional features, then it may be possible that not all of your lines will connect, and you might have some gaps in your polygons. If you want everything to be fully mapped, then you'd want to, like, you see how you have this little channel coming here. So if I go create, I could map this channel coming down here to this a little alluvial fan that kind of comes out here. Now I'm going to have some connection as we get down to these lower surfaces. So if I want to map the backside of this and over, and I wanted to say that this part in between here was like hill slope as a mapping area, that's fine. And to make that sure that works, I gotta go all the way up here and snap to this line, because then we'll get this polygon for hill slope here. And so, yeah, it's a good question. What is this surface down here? Originally, I thought it might have been the Provo level of the shoreline, and it could be, but there's a lot of things going on here because this becomes like a river slash delta. When I originally mapped this as a Provo shoreline, it looked too low as compared to this. So yeah, I guess, map all the surfaces you see and then try to figure out what they are afterwards. So I can see that there's one surface here, but it's lower down there, so I'll probably map that separately. And I'm gonna, I guess, say that I'll map the road there as a cultural feature. It'll kind of solve the problem for where to put some of these things. So map the road. I'm gonna stop my mapping here just because I don't want this demonstration to go forever. Okay. Don't think that snapped. Let's zoom in and see. No, it did not. Make sure it snaps. If it doesn't close, your polygons won't work out in the end. And then you can see I made some mistake here, right? Because I brought the fan over the road. So, but I can fix that, right? Because I can just map the road within the fan. Oh, if they cross, we're good. And then, oh yeah, I went too far, so I'll edit the vertices, click on that. Every time it doesn't quite work the way I want. There they go. Oh, I've got the wrong vertices there. Clear again. Click here. Yeah. So I really wanted this to go there. That vertice, go up here. Go up here. Go up here. And then some more editing to do over here. Clear again. Click that. Snap it. Modify as needed. So maybe that's pretty good. Okay. So yeah, let's finish one little bit here. Satisfy slight OCD. Snapping down to that contour, that's why I'm getting off the road. So I'm mapping this platform. I don't know if I think it's a road. It's not a road that we drive on, but some sort of access road. Oh, it's the High Line Canal. It's looking flat like a road. Oh, and that didn't close, so let's close that. And then we might have some other feature down here that I wanted to map geomorphically, a lower terrace. Follow that contour basically, snap it. Okay, so see, that's isolated there. Okay, so I think that's good. We have our lines. This you should have done as you were working earlier. Let's turn off my other terraces. You should, at some point, as you've made some progress, done all those editing of vertices, you should click save in case things crash. It'll save all your edits. And it will also kind of take you out of editing mode, which sometimes when you try to run processes and if you don't have saved edits, it won't work. So it's another reason you need to click save your edits. Ooh, that's taking some time. A little nervous. Good reason to save your edits more frequently. Sometimes when you save, it crashes. Hopefully that's not going to happen now. Yeah, it's frozen. Okay, it did it. Awesome. Great. It didn't crash. So now we have this line file. I probably should have called it site one. It's not the map. It's actually like I should have named it this. So click on it. Site one lines, right? You can kind of, this isn't renaming it, it's just describing it in your APRX project. But the next thing we do is we make lines from polygons. Make polygons from lines. So I think it's lines to polygons. Let's see. That's the other direction. Polygon to lines. Line to polygon then. Feature to polygon. Yeah, so it's under data management tools. So I'll click that here so we can see. So under data management features, we go feature to polygon. Because lines, points, and polygons are all features. So can take any type of feature and try to make it a polygon, I guess. So there's my site one line. And then you can output a feature class, and it's going to be a polygon. And I haven't done any attributing of things, so let's just leave that alone. I mean, I can click preserve attributes, go ahead and run it. So see, hopefully, that we've got enclosed polygons. Now, you could input multiple line features to do this too. So for instance, your contours are lines. So be careful there. You can make an unlimited amount of polygons if you wanted to. Okay, completed with warnings. Warning, empty output generated. That's not good. If I go in the attribute table, I have nothing, so it didn't work. I'm gonna redo this, but I'm not gonna put it in this geodatabase. I'm gonna put it in 2023, and I'm gonna call it site one polygons dot shp. Say save. I'm not gonna click preserve attributes since I don't have any. Completed warnings again. Empty output generated. Move. Yeah, if I go in the attribute table, if I don't have any entries, it didn't make any polygons. Oh, that's not good. I'll move that again. I'm gonna check, make sure not open with saving. Let's look at the attributes of site one. You should see that I have a number of lines, many polylines. So that should work. Here I've got my coordinate system right. Same as input. That should all be the same. This should be working. I have a strong suspicion this might be one of the tools not properly working in ArcGIS Pro. I've run into a number of these lately. Yeah, I don't know that I've changed anything, so it's really shouldn't be an issue. Try to rerun that again. Just, I don't think it's going to work. Yeah, it completed again with warnings, which didn't create anything. Okay, boom. Yeah, nothing is in there. Okay, so I'm going to click save. Um, see if I can open ArcMap. Might have to actually relicense this, unfortunately. So it might not work. Yeah. I might be able to solve this quickly. Hold on a second. Yeah, so I'm remoted into UView. I was able to set it to the concurrent license. That's fancy. It's taking a minute to load. Okay, so I'm going to see if it's just not a problem with the new software. So I think we're working in Z drive here. Yeah, there's Geomorphology labs. So we're in ArcMap. Into lab 4. And within lab 4, made my site 1 map line file. So I'm going to add that. There they are. I'm not going to add a lot of other stuff. I just want to see if this line feature will work. Line to polygon. Actually, I will add one more thing. So if we go back up to lab 4, let's add for a second the LiDAR. And also, I guess, the slope shade so we can see it. I'll flip that. Okay, so there's our slope map. One reason, ArcMap can be an easy thing to help you map with as compared to Pro is that they have this 3D analyst toolbar, which if you can choose like a target layer and profile things really quickly. So I can see kind of maybe if I've mapped the edge of this alluvial fan correctly. So I can profile across there and I can see that I've kind of gone off the edge of the fan. Where's that? Identify. Oh, it's got its own little fan in the middle, actually. Interesting. Right, so there's actually more morphology in there. I think it's okay that I lumped it as the Bonneville. But you also see we're just not going across too many meters here. There's a general slope to that kind of Bonneville surface. So I can click this and see that maybe a little bit better. Yeah, all of this within a couple of meters, but you can see, like, if we click identify on here, sorry. it shows you that where this channel is, indeed, that the channel keeps coming up onto the surface. So it's not a purely flat surface. You can see where it is flatter. So that is like maybe a better representation of the elevation of the Bonneville surface over there. So the profile tool is really helpful for maybe helping you map and informing what you're seeing. Also, like you can see, for instance, that this surface and that surface are different. If we profile across them really quickly, we can see, yeah, okay, there's one lower surface, which is clearly very different. This riser is prominent and it starts actually a little lower than I have it. I probably should put that line there. But then it gets flat up here. I actually might have two surfaces in there, one down here and another up there. Yeah, so the profile tool is really helpful for mapping. So if you want to do your geomorphic mapping, question 7 in ArcMap, you might actually have to if you need to get the feature to polygon to work. Let's see if that happens here. So we open the toolbox, which is a little bit different to get to. So under ArcMap, it's up here in this ribbon. It looks like a little red toolbox. It opens a separate window. There is a help function in here, but you kind of need to know more where you're looking. And that's why I like to kind of always check when I'm using the search box in Arc Pro. So I remember it was under data management, features, and it was feature to polygon. So that opened up this. So I input my Site 1 map features. Now, the one thing about ArcMap is it's a single thread processor program. It doesn't use multi-thread processing. It's not fast. So let's see if I can save this or I can access it in Geomorph 2023. Oh, that's what I went. Lab 4, 2023. I'm going to call it, I already have a name for it, Site 1 polygons. Let's override that. Yes. I think it'll let me do that. It does have this XY tolerance. I think that might allow you to get a little minimum distance separating all feature coordinates and distance coordinate can be moved during spatial computation is equivalent in feature units. So we could make that tolerance higher. We could make it like a 1 meter. Maybe that'll help it to work. Yeah, and so let's see if it runs. It won't let me override it in this program. It's working probably in the background. I think if you go into geoprocessing, you can see results window. You can see if it's still operating, but I can tell it is just the way it's behaving. And yeah, it worked fine. So just another example of one of the tools that's not properly working in Arc Pro yet. So yeah, I guess do question 1 in ArcMap, or question 7 in ArcMap for your mapping. So after you get your features, and you can see they're all outlined quite nicely. I can turn off the Site 1 map lines so you can see that they have their good boundaries. Then what you want to do probably is to open up the attribute table and add a field. And then maybe the simplest thing is to do text, so you can type anything you want. I'm going to call it name or mapping class. And then close the toolbox, get more space here. Let's close create features. Yeah. So there's this little hand. There's all my mapping units. So if you click on one, it should highlight which one you've clicked on. Oh yeah, there it is. If you want that to highlight better, probably just choose a different map color because it highlights in blue. These yellows will show nicely. Okay, I want a yellow with an outline. Olive, how about that? Yeah, so there we go. So that I called fan, and so I'm going to call it quaternary. So I type in here. Oh, so first I have to turn on editing. Start editing. Okay, now there's this within editing, create features, etc. Click on Site Polygons. There they are. Okay, I can go into now this field window and type something. So I could just call it fan, simply enough if I wanted to, and not be too specific. Okay, if I click the next polygon, that's down here. And in my map, it's the second from the lowest terrace. So I call it terrace 2. This other one, oh, this is another fan. Oh, I double clicked. If you double click, it takes you right to the feature. That's a piece of road. No, canal. That's right. That is terrace 1, lowest terrace, the most young in my mapping area. If I had kept going, I would have had other low ones. Single click. That is Bonneville Terrace. That is another fan. That is canal again. And if you don't want afterwards these canals to be separated, you can merge them or dissolve the lines. It's Bonneville Terrace again. See, it can behoove you to write shorter names. If you don't type these exactly the same, it will be hard to make your map because they'll display as separate classes. That is hill slope, which I'm likely to color nothing. That is another canal piece. So you should see that it made, all these separate polygons just from those lines. So we only had to click the lines once. We didn't have to mirror them. Because if we had just clicked polygons to start with, we'd have to line up all the polygons. If you had a really complicated geometry, like here, then you'd need to be tracing those polygons. Once you're done with the naming, you need to click Save Edits. Okay. One thing is you can only add a field when you've stopped editing. So you can see I go under the table, add field is grayed out. I saved the edits, but I haven't stopped editing. Once I stop editing, I could add another field if I wanted to give them just a more simple explanation or something like that, like number. Okay. So I'm going to zoom to that layer. So there they all are. And now I'm going to go under properties and adjust their symbology. So it's a little different symbologies within properties in ArcMap. And unique values of class. I'm going to uncheck that and I'm going to add all values. And I'm going to make hill slope hollow so you can see through it. Fans I'll make as green. Canal is a nice blue. Bonneville is an older terrace, and usually for quaternary mapping, it's shades of tan, yellow, and orange. And orange is usually for the older things. So let's use orange. And the younger terraces, I might choose like medium yellow. Oh, that should have probably been for terrace 2. And a lighter color, just the tan for terrace 1. And then boom, you've got your map. You could annotate it, you could label these things. You can see I left the hill slope open even though it's mapped. If you wanted, we could change that. I don't know what we would choose, gray or pink. And then the hill slope shows up. And you can see that if you don't want to map hill slopes, you don't have to. That's perfectly fine to not do the hill slopes. They're not a geomorphic surface, but then at some points there are these areas like here, which you could map. Those would be sites of colluvial deposition that I didn't pick up. So hopefully this is helpful. It shows you how to make polygons from lines. Looks like you're gonna probably, if you get a failure in ArcPro, move to ArcMap and to use that tool. You could then go back to Pro after you've made the polygons. You don't have to work in ArcMap if that is too cumbersome because you don't know where everything is. But if you do want to work in ArcMap, remember that you can go customize toolbar 3D analyst, which will bring up this toolbar for profiling. That can be really informative with your mapping. Okay, I'm going to stop this mapping tutorial here.